was a quiet, sunny morning in Los Angeles. The sky was clear and the streets were alive with people heading to work, students going to school, and tourists exploring the city. Everything seemed normal until the smell of smoke filled the air. At first, people thought it was just a small fire in the hills. Fires were common in Los Angeles, especially during the dry summer months. But this time, it was different. The fire started on January 7, 2025, in Griffith Park, likely due to a spark caused by power lines damaged by the high winds. Simultaneously, another fire, later called the Eaton Fire, erupted near Altadena in northern Los Angeles County. The weather conditions were perfect for disaster: low humidity, severe drought, and hurricane-force Santa Ana winds reaching speeds of up to 80 miles. These conditions allowed the flames to spread rapidly, jumping from dry brush to trees and then to homes. Within hours, what had started as small fires turned into raging infernos. The fires spread across the hills and began to threaten homes, schools, and businesses. The fire department worked tirelessly, but the strong winds made it almost impossible to control the flames. Helicopters and airplanes dropped water and fire retardant, but the fires kept growing. Anna, a school teacher, lived in a small house near the edge of the city. That morning, she heard the news on the radio. "A large wildfire has started near Griffith Park," the announcer said. Anna looked outside and saw a cloud of smoke in the distance. She thought about her students and wondered if they were safe. By noon, evacuation orders were announced for several neighborhoods. Anna packed a bag with some clothes, important papers, and a few family photos. She didn't have much time. When she opened her door, she saw her neighbors loading their cars and trying to leave. Everyone looked scared. The roads were crowded as thousands of people tried to escape the fire. Anna's car moved slowly, but she was grateful to be moving at all. She could see the orange glow of the fire in her rearview mirror. It felt like the fire was chasing her. Finally, she reached an evacuation center set up at a local high school. Volunteers greeted her with water and blankets. Many families were already there, sitting together and watching the news on a big screen. Everyone was worried, but they were also grateful to be safe. That night, Anna sat with a young boy and his mother. The boy was crying because they had to leave their dog behind. Anna tried to comfort him, saying, "You are safe now, and that's the most important thing." But deep inside, she wondered how long the fire would last and what it would destroy next. The evacuation center was a mix of chaos and calm. Families huddled together, their faces marked with worry and exhaustion. Volunteers handed out food and blankets while local officials provided updates about the fire's spread. Anna sat quietly, holding her phone, hoping for news that the flames were under control. But the updates were grim. The fire had grown larger overnight, burning thousands of acres. Entire neighborhoods in the hills were engulfed in flames, and more evacuation orders were issued. The Santa Ana winds showed no signs of slowing down, pushing the fire toward the heart of the city. At the center, Anna met Mark, a firefighter who had just returned from the front lines. His face was covered in soot and his eyes were heavy with fatigue. "The fire's moving faster than we expected," he said, sitting down next to her. "We're doing everything we can, but the winds are making it nearly impossible." Anna asked him how the fire had started. Mark explained, "It seems like a spark from damaged power lines started it, but the real problem is the weather. This drought has left everything dry as paper. Add these winds, and it's like throwing gasoline on a campfire." Meanwhile, others at the evacuation center shared their own stories of escape. A young couple described how they barely managed to flee their home in the hills. "We saw the flames coming over the ridge," the woman said, her voice trembling. We grabbed what we could and ran. Everything else, it's gone." As night fell, the evacuation center grew quieter. People tried to sleep, but the uncertainty kept many awake. Anna thought about her own home, wondering if it was still standing. She also thought about her students and their families, hoping they were safe. The next morning brought more bad news. The fire had reached several densely populated neighborhoods, destroying homes, schools, and businesses. The smoke in the air was so thick that it turned the sky an eerie orange. Despite the devastation, there were moments of hope. Firefighters managed to save a small community near Griffith Park by creating fire breaks and using helicopters to drop water. Neighbors worked together, helping each other evacuate and providing rides to those without cars. Anna volunteered at the center, helping to comfort children and distribute supplies. She knew it would be a long road ahead, but she felt a sense of determination. "We'll get through this," she told a worried mother. "We have to." When the flames finally started to subside, Los Angeles looked like a different city. Blackened hills, burned-down homes, and smoke-filled skies served as painful reminders of the destruction. The fire had consumed over 500 acres, leaving thousands homeless and causing billions of dollars in damage. Anna was finally allowed to return to her neighborhood. Driving through the streets, she could hardly recognize the place she once called home. Her heart sank as she saw her street. Her house, along with many others, was reduced to ashes. The swing in her front yard, the flower garden she loved, and the family photos she couldn't take with her, they were all gone. But Anna was not alone. Her neighbors gathered in the middle of the street, hugging each other and sharing their grief. Some had lost everything, while others had homes that were only partially damaged. "We'll rebuild," one neighbor said. "Together, we'll make this place our home again." At the evacuation center, the stories of survival continued. A firefighter shared how his team had rescued a group of elderly residents trapped in a senior living facility. A volunteer talked about the hundreds of pets they had saved and reunited with their owners. Amid the heartbreak, there were stories of resilience and kindness. The city's recovery efforts began immediately. Local and national organizations set up donation centers and temporary shelters. Volunteers worked tirelessly to distribute food, clothing, and medical supplies. The government pledged to provide support for rebuilding, but many knew it would take years to recover fully. Anna decided to stay at the center a little longer, helping others who were still in need. She started teaching children at the shelter, using stories and games to distract them from the trauma. One day she saw the boy who had cried about his dog. He ran up to her, smiling. "We found him," he said. "He's safe." That small moment of joy gave Anna hope. The fire had taken so much, but it couldn't take away the spirit of the people. They were strong, determined, and ready to rebuild. With the fire now 60% contained, the focus shifted to rebuilding. Emergency crews worked to restore power and clear debris, while aid organizations set up resource centers across the city. Anna decided to stay active in the relief efforts, helping families fill out insurance claims and apply for assistance. The government declared Los Angeles a disaster zone, unlocking federal funds for recovery. Mobile clinics were set up to treat those affected by the smoke, while mental health professionals offered counseling to help survivors cope with the trauma. Anna's neighborhood was unrecognizable. She visited the site where her home once stood, now reduced to ash and rubble. Her neighbors were there too, sifting through the remains for anything salvageable. "It's hard to look at this and imagine starting over," one of them said. Anna placed a comforting hand on their shoulder. "We'll rebuild," she said, her voice steady, "one step at a time." In the weeks that followed, Anna's school resumed classes in a temporary location. She returned to teaching, using stories and creative activities to help her students process what had happened. The boy who had cried for his dog now smiled as he shared the story of how firefighters rescued his beloved pet. Los Angeles was scarred but not broken. The community's spirit remained unshaken as people worked together to rebuild homes, support one another, and plan for a safer future. Anna knew the road ahead would be long, but she also knew they would walk it together. Call to action. The recent fires in Los Angeles remind us of the importance of community, preparation, and resilience. If you want to help, consider donating to organizations supporting disaster relief efforts. Share this story to raise awareness and inspire others to come together in times of need. If this story has helped you learn English, share it with your friends and family. Let's continue learning and growing together.